Ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens, how you doing today? Awesome or good?
Awesome.
Awesome or excellent?
Excellent.
Awesome. All right. As you mentioned, I'm King Kevin Dorival, and it's an honor to be back here at Broward College. He didn't mention that I actually went to school here back in 2004. Is when I left, and then I went to FAU. My book is entitled The Courage to Believe, which is also the name of my stage play, and documentary, which is called The Courage to Believe, Never Give Up. You can find out more information from my website, thecouragetobelieve.com or kevindorival.com. There's some flyers, I have a couple of books and DVDs back there for sale as well. And regarding the film, I even began doing some taxes just to raise the money to finish producing the film, because it's that important to come out with a movie, rather a documentary, that will help teenagers and young adults understand what it takes to overcome adversity. That is why I wrote the book, but I've noticed that videos are so much more popular than reading books. You agree? All right. Now, when I think about Dr. King, there's 3 words that come to mind. One is peace, bravery, and black history. For Dr. King to come up with the idea to do the non-violent protest, it was brilliant, because he understood that if he was to fight fire with fire, then the fire would continue. And his children's children will continue to take part in the bloodshed that was going on back in the 50s and 60s. So fighting the fire with peace in front of TV cameras, which was really the reason why he chose that route, because he knew if he can show the world what was going on in the United States, then the United States, the government, would have to answer to the world court. Bravery. In order for anyone to be able to walk in marches peacefully without any violence or fighting back, one, you have to be a little crazy, because could you imagine walking, doing a protest, and someone come across your head with a nightstick and you not do anything about it? How many of you would have fought back? Or at least defend yourself? I could not have imagined myself in those shoes at that time. But there was a place and a time for such as a man as Dr. King. And he did not do all of this by himself. There's a long line of historic black leaders, from Queen Nzinga in Africa to Frederick Douglass, Toussaint Louverture. The list goes on and on and on. He didn't just wake up one day and do the March on Washington. It took a great deal of support, a legacy of unity. He understood that he had to get the Civil Rights Bill approved, and also the Voting Rights Act, in order to give us an opportunity to close the economic gap that was pulling us apart. His mentor was a guy named Howard Thurman. And what he taught Dr. King at a young age was that instead of focusing on what pulls us apart, focus on what brings people together. And that's what Dr. King was about. Equality, justice, righteousness. There's a guy named A.G. Gaston in Alabama. Anyone ever heard of him? He's one of the first black millionaires in the country. He actually was the guy who funded the civil rights movement behind the doors. He didn't want people knowing he's the one that was doing all this, because he wanted his businesses, first of all, to continue flourishing. He was an individual that had a very successful funeral home business, which was the first person to franchise the funeral business, and also he had insurance. He had one of the first black universities in Alabama as well, and hotels. Dr. King and many other civil rights leaders were living at his hotels in Alabama. And he was the one bailing them out. As a matter of fact, one time he bailed out Martin Luther King with $160,000. Now, you're talking back in the 60s, that's a lot of money, even in today's numbers. So do your homework and look up Mr. A.G. Gaston. He's one of my mentors, even though he died many years ago, but I've read his story several times. Now, I have a theory. I have a theory that Dr. King, just like many other black leaders, they were able to tap into the energy, the spiritual powers that took place in specific times. For instance, the Haitian Revolution. I truly believe that Martin Luther King, just like Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass, they were well aware of what the Haitians were able to accomplish. And by tapping into that energy, understanding that, hey, they did something great back then, we can do something great right now. As much as I hate to admit, the prison population right now is filled with roughly 51% of the black population. There are plenty of youth, especially young black men, who give up on their dreams and goals. And they go into the criminal system because they don't understand the legacy that was laid before them, and that if they were able to accomplish great things back then, then we could do it now. When I was here at Broward College, which was one of the most craziest times of my life, I caught buses, I caught trains, I was on probation, I was under investigation through affiliations with different people, so all odds were against me from graduating college. But I refused to give up. And I thank people like Dr. King, reading about him and other great leaders, that, for instance, another one that I've always looked up to was Booker T. Washington. I read about these people going through those times because I knew that if they were able to overcome what they were able to overcome, then I could do the same thing. Booker T. Washington built the first black university in the United States, the Tuskegee Institute. He literally built it from the ground up, literally. Built every cabin. The first building on that campus was $500. He didn't know where he was going to get the money from. But he did it. And then he had to build another building, which was $6,000. He didn't know where he was going to get the money from. Him, his wife, and supporters, but they hustled and grind all over the country to raise the funds. And then they raised another building that was $10,000. So you know he was scratching his head then. They built mattresses, they built the desks, they built the chairs, they built the schools, they grew their own food. So I asked myself, while I was going through those difficult times while I was here at Broward College, if they can do that, then I could overcome this. And that is why I wrote the book, The Courage to Believe, and also the documentary as well, because I understand that people give up hope all the time. When they called Dr. King's house, when he was having dinner with his family, he received a bomb threat. And he received plenty of bomb threats, death threats, and all of that. But despite the fact that people were trying to kill him, he remained focused. He focused his energy on what was more important. And he received an epiphany at that time. He knew he was going to die. There was no doubt about it. Kennedy died. They can't protect the president. What makes you think they could have protected him? And he knew that. And it takes an incredible amount of bravery for anyone to put aside their own personal life, their family life, for the greater good of the world. And that is why I look up so much to Dr. King and several other individuals, because they made me believe that I can do it. Now I want you to look at the person to the left or to the right of you and say, I believe in you, King, or I believe in you, Queen.
I believe in you, King.
And the reason why I had you all do that is because it's going to require, at some point in time of your life, to get the support of someone in your community. It's not just one person, but a group of people. The legacy of unity, we cannot forget those thousands of people that protest back in the 60s. The Montgomery bus boycott, it took them 382 days of not taking the buses or taxi cabs, but to walk and to carpool. That took a great deal of unity. We can't forget that. That was a great source of power. And with that being said, I want to just wish you all a blessed day, and to remember to do something in your community in regards to Dr. King. May God bless you all.